pay you after for doing that like I promised. So thank you guys. Hey, it's good to be here today. I'm excited. My name is Madole. For those of you guys who don't know me, I'm the athletic director here at the college. And I'm excited, I'm honored, I'm privileged to be able to share with you guys today. Last week, you recall Jared Stark, he spoke before he got into what he was talking about. He shared an image of a new addition in his house. Well, there must have been something in the water a couple of summers ago because I too brought this young lady. Well, I didn't, my wife did. So that is Mighty Quinn. Mighty Quinn is her name. Mighty Quinn is her actual name. If you want to know why I named her Mighty Quinn, I'll talk to you after that. Partly because my wife was under anesthesia when the birth certificate paper came by, and I took full advantage of that. But that's Mighty Quinn, and I know what some of you guys are thinking. You're thinking, that's a cute little baby, except she has a haircut like her dad. And if you're thinking that, you're right. She looks just like her dad's haircut. So anyway, we just got to roll with it. She's the youngest of four. She's got 3 older brothers. You'll see them running around campus from time to time. And she also has 3 older sisters. We took part in the Adopted Student Program last year, or a couple years ago. And we got these 3. We got Justine, Cass, yeah. I actually adopted 2 of them. The Katrina just showed up one day and she hasn't left since. So we have those. They teach Quinn different things like how to whip and nay-nay, how to do this, and different things. So I am thankful for them being in our lives. So anyway, that's part of my family for you guys. A couple weeks back, Sam asked me to speak in chapel, and like I said, I'm always honored and privileged to do this, so I took advantage of the opportunity. And one of the first questions I said to Sam, what topic do you have? He said, no topic, do what you want. Sometimes that's dangerous. I have to stick to a script. So, ask Coach Tori. But what I did is I wanted to get back to the Bible. I wanted to get back to the Bible. I want to get back to the good word. I want to get back to the good news. I want to get back to this thing that is so valuable to so many of us. So I want to get back here. And what I want to do, I want to get to a story that was popular. A story that if you grew up in Bible class, you knew about. A story that even if you didn't grow up going to Bible class, you probably heard about. It's cute. It has a nice ending. Everybody leaves feeling good about it. But there's a couple of things in this story that I think we overlook that are very valuable, very important, and we're going to look at those today. The story comes from Mark chapter 2. I'm going to read this real quick. It should be on the screen behind me as well. Mark chapter 2. A few days later, when Jesus again entered Capernaum, the people heard that he had come home. So many gathered, there was no room left, not even outside the door, and he preached the word to them. Some men came, bringing to him a paralytic, carried by 4 of them. Since they could not get to Jesus because of the crowd, they made an opening in the roof above Jesus, and after digging through it, lowered the mat the paralyzed man was lying on. When Jesus saw their faith, he said to the paralytic, "Son, your sins are forgiven." Now some teachers of the law were sitting there thinking to themselves, why does he talk like this? He's blaspheming, he's a liar. Verse 8, immediately Jesus knew in his spirit that this is what they were thinking in their hearts, and he said to them, what's easier to do? Say his sins are forgiven, or get up and walk? Verse 11, Jesus says, get up and walk. The man grabbed his mat, he got up and walked, and he left, and everybody lived happily ever after. Kinda, not really. You see, I asked my son, I taught this in Sunday school this past Sunday, I asked my son, he was in my class, I said, summarize the story for me that you did in Bible class. He said, well, this guy couldn't walk, some people carried him to the roof, they dropped him through the roof. Jesus says, whoa, he says, get up and walk out, and the man walked out. And that is true to a degree, but he's missing a very important part. There's a lot more to this story. You see, I'm an English nerd. I'm not good with numbers, I'm an English nerd, I do well with words. And sometimes, the real story in English isn't always obvious. How many of you guys have been there? The teacher gives you a poem about a flower in a pasture. And the flower blooms, the flower grows nice and beautiful. The next thing you know, a cow herd comes by and tramples the flower. The teacher says, give me 2 pages about this poem. You start writing, a flower grew and cows killed it, period. Anybody ever been there? You look at this thing, you're like, how am I supposed to get 2 pages about this flower? Oh no, the flower's about life, and the cows are your dreams. What? That's not what it says. See, sometimes when it comes to English, sometimes when it comes to words, you have to dig a little bit. You have to look a little bit. You have to think a little bit more. And as I read this story, yes, it's a feel-good story, but there's also something in here that's very important. That thing in here that's very important is the next word that I have up here. And the thing that's very important is something called grit. You see, grit is a popular word. It's a catchword. A lot of people use this word in the last couple of years. There's actually a book entitled Grit. And what grit is, that's your determination. That's your resolve. That's the will of your strength, or the strength of your will. How bad do you want it? See, I go back and I look at this story, and a group of people that we often overlook that are a huge part of this story are the 4 friends. I want you guys to follow me here. There are 4 dudes in this story. And I know a little something about dudes. I used to be a dude before I got married. But if there are 4 dudes, 5 dudes hanging out together, one of those dudes is probably crazy, right? Next time you're sitting around with a bunch of guys, you're sitting, there's 3, 4, 5 of you, and you're looking around, and you're thinking, man, all these guys, none of them are crazy. Well, I got news for you. You're the crazy one. But if you got some dudes sitting around, there's probably one dude that's crazy and will do some crazy things. So these guys get an idea. Larry says to Daryl, hey, I got an idea about a Lieutenant Dan. That's funny. You'll catch it. Let's take Lieutenant Dan to go see Jesus. What? I heard he's doing some awesome stuff. Jesus can heal. Let's take Dan to go see Jesus. And sometimes the worst thing with the crazy idea is that it gets support. So Daryl's like, well, I guess I go grab my other brother Daryl and Bubba. Well, let's take him down there to Jesus. So they load him up. They carry him through the town. They get to the problem. They get to the house. And there's a problem. They can't get to Jesus. And that's where grit shows up. That's where grit shows up. But you know, today in our culture where we have this phrase that we use, that we like to use. And that phrase is, it wasn't meant to be. It wasn't meant to be. Sorry, Lieutenant Dan, the house is packed, we can't get you to Jesus. Guess what? It wasn't meant to be today. It wasn't meant to be today. You see, sometimes wasn't meant to be is a cop-out for I didn't want it bad enough. It wasn't meant to be for me to pass that class. You didn't show up on time. You didn't do your homework. You didn't study. You stayed up all hours of the night. You didn't want it bad enough. It wasn't meant to be for me to lose those 10 extra pounds. Well, yeah, you take 3 trips to the cafeteria, you call ice cream a food group, you got to stash some Mike and Ike's back in the crib. What do you mean it wasn't meant to be? You just didn't want it bad enough. Oh, it wasn't meant to be for me to be an all-conference player this year. Oh yeah, you know what? You didn't touch a ball all summer, your running shoes are still white. You just didn't want it bad enough. Just didn't want it bad enough. It wasn't meant to be. It can be a reason to stop, or it can be your reason to get gritty. You see, guys, in life, a lot of times, your opportunities, they dress a whole lot like your obstacles. Let me say that again in case you weren't listening. Sometimes in life, your opportunities dress up a whole lot like obstacles. And let me be very clear. There is very little that is easy in this life. College is not easy. Athletics is not easy. Hopping in that car, throwing all your stuff in the back of it, or hopping on that plane, putting everything in your suitcase, and coming here is not easy. Learning all those lines and acting over there on that stage is not easy. The question then becomes, how much grit you got? These dudes got to that door, they see it's packed, and their grit shows up. And they say, there's no way I'm carrying this guy across town on this blanket to get to this house just to turn back around now. I'm not doing that. I got to find a way. I don't care if we got to tear the roof off this place. We're going to get this guy to the feet of Jesus. And that crazy guy got an idea. That crazy idea grew legs, and it happened. They crawl up there through the mud, through the sticks, through the rock, through the clay, kicking, scratching, clawing, digging. They finally get home. See, in my Hollywood mind, I got an idea of this nice, perfect hole here where it fits a guy perfectly and lower him down on these little pulley things. That's probably not the way it happened. They probably got a hole big enough to get him through there. They got him this blanket. They get him so far. Lieutenant Dan's just so far. And Daryl looks at Larry and says, we can't get him all the way down. What are we going to do now? They said, well, let's drop him. His legs don't work anyway. And so they dropped the guy. That is kind of funny. And he falls. And he falls at the feet of the only person in the world that can do anything for him. And Jesus looks at a man, looks at his friends, and he says, son, your sins are forgiven. Daryl looks at Bubba and says, what did he say? Bubba says, something about his leg, his sins. Said, what about his legs? You see, they came there all that way for one goal. Jesus knew what they wanted, but more importantly, he knew what they needed. You see, I could stop right here and I could talk 10 minutes about the value of your friends. You see, Dan didn't get to Jesus by himself. He didn't get to that roof by himself. He didn't get forgiven on his own accord. The value of your friends is a big deal. I could stop here and talk 10 minutes about what you want isn't always what you need. I'm not going to talk about that. I can stop here and talk about the haters that we all have in our worlds. See, in this story, the haters are described as Pharisees. See, Jesus sees these haters. He says, hey, I know what you're thinking. He wanted an imaginary argument. I know what you're thinking, so because you're thinking this is what I'm going to do. Your sins are forgiven. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. Now get up and walk. The haters got that guy healed. But I'm not going to talk about haters. I'm going to finish talking about the man. The man that fell through. The man that knew disappointment. The man that couldn't walk. The man that couldn't run. The man that couldn't get from one place to another. The man that couldn't dance. The man that couldn't do anything but sit there. He was just carried through town. He was just carried on top of a roof. He was just dropped through the ceiling. And there he is in front of Jesus and all these haters on this pile of stuff. He is just sitting there. And Jesus looks at him and says, get up and walk out. And nobody in this room would blame the man for saying, I can't walk. Or coming up with an excuse that says, I can't do that. Not right now. You don't know who I am. No one would blame that man for doing that. But to do things that you never have done before, sometimes you have to believe in Jesus and take the first step. Take the first step. As we start this semester, we're still fairly early into it. There are a lot of questions that you guys have. And I would love to say that those questions that are going to be answered in clear, obvious ways. But the questions that you guys come across this semester may not be answered in clear, obvious ways. So I'm going to leave you with two thoughts this morning. Number one, got a couple more slides up there. Fate favors the gritty. See opportunity where most people will see obstacles. And although you can't see all the answers to your questions clearly, trust in the word of Jesus and make sure he's with you each step you take. Thank you guys.